Jonesboro, this is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Lots of clouds, showers, and thunderstorms today and tonight. Small chance of a severe thunderstorm. And the temperatures in the mid to upper 70s during the day, low 60s tonight. More clouds, more showers, maybe a thunderstorm Thursday, the high 70 to 75. And Friday should be partly to mostly sunny in the low 70s. Educate, entertain, and empower. We're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. The death toll from the attacks in Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday has risen to 359. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's arrived in Russia's Far East for talks with President Vladimir Putin. Egyptian voters have approved constitutional changes that could see President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi remain in power until 2030, and almost half child sexual abuse imagery reported to the Internet Watch Foundation in 2018 came from the Netherlands.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Kabila Jones, and my special guest today is Dr. Brookshield Laurent.
Yes.
Okay, from the NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Yes.
Right. And today we're going to have a discussion, just an open discussion about health and wellness in general as it relates to the African American community, because I'm sure being in practice, you see things that are possibly preventable or could be delayed depending on what the disease or condition is if the person had received timely care and gotten a diagnosis earlier or gotten some direction on how to better take care of themselves to prevent whatever happened. All right, but before we get into our discussion, I would love for you to please give us an introduction of yourself.
Absolutely.
I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Every time Dr. Patricia Guy Walls comes on, when they're hosting, the social work department is hosting their Health Disparities Conference.
Yes.
She speaks very highly of you.
Oh, she's amazing. Amazing.
But I would like for you to tell us about yourself and introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers.
I'll be glad to, and thank you so much for having me. This is really something that I always look forward to doing and engaging with my community members. So my name is Dr. Brookshield Laurent. I am an osteopathic family medicine physician. Currently, I am the Vice Chair for the Department of Clinical Medicine at NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine at A-State. And we not only practice medicine as our clinicians in our department do, we also we teach students, rising physicians. Our mission at NYIT-COM is to recruit and train up students to come to our medical students that are from the Delta in Arkansas, that is our catchment area, and to stay in the Delta to practice medicine. And so our goal is to increase access to healthcare by making sure that we make sure that students and rising physicians and physicians come to the areas where it's most needed to practice medicine. And so all of our students essentially go through rural areas, underserved areas, get exposure to working with communities that they may not have been used to or known of, or maybe they are from that community. They have an opportunity to provide health care.
I was going to ask you about that. Do the students actually get to go and they get to travel and really engage in those areas? More specifically, the Delta.
Yes.
I'm from Marianna, Arkansas, which is definitely right in that Delta area, along with parts of Tennessee, Mississippi, and like West Helena, Forest, like just that general area where there's a lot of farming and, like you said, rural areas. And so we often see the population, there's a gap. There's the older population, people that have lived there either all their lives. There may be some that have moved back, but you rarely see that age where the people that have access to the technology or that know how to operate the technology well kind of hang around. And so there's this gap in accessibility or in knowledge to what's available.
Yeah, and what you're observing, there's data to prove that this is actually very true. You certainly see in different populations, in different age groups, that accessibility to technology is not the same, and therefore serves as a prevention, as a barrier to getting information about healthcare, getting to a healthcare provider, getting to a physician. And so you speak of what we refer to at our school and how we're training our students as social health determinants.
Okay.
We understand that there are forces outside the examination room that affect a person's health care. And it's not just, and it's important that we manage illnesses and diseases, but we also have to be aware that there are many things for a long period of time that was affecting this person's outcome and health. So we have to consider their environment, we have to consider education, we have to consider infrastructure of their environment, safety of their environment, food security, where their home's located. These are all the things that we have to consider when we're taking care of our patients. So it isn't just the illness. We have to look at the whole picture.
Yes, ma'am. The total man and total woman.
That's right.
One term that I learned in sociology was intersectionality. And I love that word. So
it's a great word, yeah.
Dr. Patricia and I often talk about that when we're talking about the health disparities.
That's
and
right.
In order to address one issue, because you may see a patient that has diabetes, or they may be newly diagnosed with like high cholesterol or some other type of heart issue. However, like you said, there are contributing factors that were in place way before this condition, disease, whatever started. There are some social, emotional, environmental, nutrition plays a big role.
That's right.
And I definitely want to touch on, I know this conversation will probably be like hours long.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Try to condense it.
Yeah.
But nutrition plays a role. We know in the African American culture, we tend to not always eat well and take care of ourselves. And when you try to introduce new ideas to people, they're like, what is that? So let's just start there.
Yeah.
Start the conversation there.
Yeah, you studied sociology, so food and culture is deeply intertwined. It's the time where we come together, we gather together. It's a time when we're mourning and we're celebrating, and food is at the center of those moments. And to go and essentially kind of reframe and almost deconstruct that can be literally it's almost impossible. It may feel as if it's impossible. I don't think that it's not possible, but it feels like it's impossible. And I think that we have an opportunity, especially with our younger generation, to start some new traditions that still honors our well-being. So part of our, as being in an African American community, part of our culture really talks about the best of who we are, right? Okay. There are things that we represent a rich inheritance. We represent a great heritage. We represent beauty. We represent just our history. And so all the great things that come out of who we are, does include the richness of the way that we celebrate. It's all connected, and I get that completely. But we do have to take a step back and take a look and see what are we doing that doesn't allow us to move forward to be the best that we can be. Yes. What is affecting our well-being and mortality? And the stats are significant. Wow. So we do talk about the social aspects, environmental, but there's another big component in healthcare, which are behaviors. Oh. Okay. And behaviors contribute significantly to our health outcomes. And that's a part that we can actually change and affect and have the most effect on to change our outcome in healthcare. So let's talk about the data. Right now, in terms of infant mortality, much higher than any other ethnic population. In the Black community is much higher, so babies are dying. Prenatal care, so moms who are pregnant getting care are getting it later within the Black community than other ethnic groups. And also diagnosis of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, the use of tobacco products. all these things are higher within our population in comparison to other ethnic populations. And so when you consider the facts, this is why we're dying sooner, we're sicker, and there's a lot of reasons contributing to that, but behavior contributes to that. So we have to acknowledge the role that we play in that. And so, like anything, change is difficult. Change is something that happens sometimes where everything's going great, you don't change. But when you run into what I call a pain point, you're like, okay, what's happening here? Because I want to be alive to see my children and my grandchildren. I want to be able to move about and keep up with my family or friends. I want to, yes, I can live beyond what my mother lived, right? So I keep hearing stories from my patients that say, there's no woman in my family that lived beyond 50. That is that's significant, and that's telling, and it doesn't have to be true for you. Yes. And so those are things. So the first thing is that we have to acknowledge the facts. Okay. Sometimes we don't feel cholesterol. Okay. No. Sometimes we don't feel hypertension, and it isn't until it's really late that we start feeling it. By that time, it's really difficult. Yes. So even before we get to that point, you mentioned the first steps. What we have to do, we have to get and know our numbers. Okay. Prevention is the best step. Is the greatest step. I think is the best thing in medicine. Just how can I do? Knowing my family history. Knowing my my blood pressure, knowing my cholesterol, knowing my blood sugar numbers. What are the things that I can do to make sure it doesn't go up? And if it's up, what are some things that I can make it go down? Right? So prevention is key. Prevention starts at the grocery store. Not at the dinner table. It starts at the grocery store. So the moment you step into the grocery store, you are now taking steps that will either count against your life or make decisions toward life. So every time you either pass the produce, it's a decision, you know what I mean? It's a decision to either I'm choosing death or I'm choosing life. But it's really that deep. Okay. It's really that deep. And the thing is, we live in one moment and we just see that moment and that's it. We like how we feel when we take this food that we eat. You know, I mean, it's real. I mean, food literally can be an addiction, like tobacco. Like anything, it literally can be. So, the moment you step into the grocery store, I'm going to choose life today. Okay. It's one step. It's first perspective, So I'll start there. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because of the accessibility to information via the internet. Yeah. Now, I can remember growing up, and I'm over 40, so I can remember growing up when we didn't have access to all of that. We only had encyclopedias that were not updated very often. Right. But I hadn't heard really much of, vegan lifestyle or even vegetarian. Of course, my family tried to encourage eating more vegetables, but at the same time, it was cooked with fat meat and salt and this and that. So while we were eating greens and cabbage, it was still loaded with other stuff. So I think now we're starting to see a pocket of the newer generation, leaning towards, okay, how can I take what we grew up on but make it healthier? And just overall better for us. Right. So again, it goes into that mindset, behaviors, and adjust.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the way that food is prepared. So I might ask my patients, tell me what do you like to eat? They'll say fruits and vegetables. There has to be a follow-up question. Well, how is it prepared? If it's soaked in salt and ham, just drink the juice. That vegetable had nothing to do with what you ate. That's not what you ate. You know what I'm saying? So. Vegetable in the most rawest form or close to it, so steamed still preserves all the nutrients. Okay. So it's best to keep it, if it's steamed, it's best. So if you put it in oil, if it's soaked up in water, already boiled, if you're putting salt and all the additives in there, you lose the nutritional value. So I like broiling my vegetables. So I just put it in the oven and let it get a little crispy, like Brussels sprouts. And I do that with a butternut squash and potatoes. And those are things that I'll put, and it's just make it crispy and you preserve the vegetable nutrients. So those are some steps that we need to do. I'm glad you mentioned that, though. That's so true. They'll say we have sweet potatoes for soul food, and be like, but what you put in that sweet potato, though? That sugar don't make it right.
Sugar and butter.
Right.
All right, want to say good morning to a few people. Mr. Dwayne Harden and Mr. Adrian Everett. Thank you for checking in, and everyone else that's out there watching. I hope that you're, paying attention to the conversation. We're going to move away from nutrition. We're not trying to beat everybody down.
That's right.
About what you eat. However, again, we have to start somewhere, changing our mindset and looking at our total health. Yeah. Because sometimes what you eat, drink, and smoke, and whatever else you do, it can affect your social health as well. And then you start to withdraw and become reclusive, and you're not interacting with your environment and others around you. So then here comes depression or other mental health issues. So it's like this all-encompassing. I don't know. You can't separate one part from the other. They all intersect. They go together.
They do.
All right. So we need to start having these conversations, though, with our families, and as kids are get old enough to understand certain concepts. Again, let's start having these conversations. We often leave the kids out. Again, I grew up in an era, kids over here, adults over here, and you're told what to do, but you're not explained the why of it. So, again, have more conversations, include the kids, and help to expand their knowledge and understanding of what you're trying to give them.
Right.
All right. So, next topic or next part of the discussion is, okay, now we're trying to eat better, do better, maybe get a little exercise. Let's go there. Let's start with exercise. Sometimes people hear the word exercise and think, oh God, I have to run, I have to walk, I have to do this. But explain to us the benefits of just moving your body, period.
Yeah.
It's not always about weight loss.
That's right.
But maybe weight management and management of other conditions that could be underlying.
Absolutely. So parking your car as far away as possible from the entrance and just adding a little bit more steps makes a difference. Instead of taking the elevator, take the stairs, makes the difference, right? So it may not be a whole exercise routine like you're alluding to. Like, it could be small steps that we can make. And to connect it to the outcomes, there's more clarity of thought. Data have shown that people think more clearly. Your memory gets better. I have students that they study, and sometimes they have a lot of work and a lot of things to study, and we've encouraged them to exercise because there's studies that have showed us that with exercise they're able to retain the information much better. So memory is actually improved with more exercise. There's more clarity of thought. And so, yes, going back to your physical activity, it absolutely enhances your mental ability. They've also showed even reduction of sugar can also do that as well. It can help you with clarity as well. So, yes, absolutely. It's not just about losing weight. Keeping your muscles active and engaged better regulates your hormones in your body. Most certainly. So, for instance, one hormone is insulin. Insulin is what drives sugar away from right into our cells, so our body can use sugar correctly. So when we're exercising, insulin is used up more, which is good. So sugar doesn't stay elevated in our body. So which is what a recommendation we make to patients who've been diagnosed with diabetes: exercise even more. So it uses the insulin much more, so that you're able to reduce the sugar that's elevated in their bodies.
Wow. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about exercise in relation to the aging population. We see too many elderly people, I don't say elderly, people over the age of 60, 70, or 80 that are now, on walkers, canes, wheelchairs. And some of that, I'm not picking on anyone, I'm just saying, and recognizing from my own family, some of that could have been prevented if the person had been a little more active, even if just taking a walk, walk around the driveway, walk around the block, whatever the case, just to keep, like you said, keep those muscles moving and going and in shape, and also increasing the quality of your heart function, your lung function. Able to take deep breaths. Some people are at a point they can't take deep breaths because
Yes.
They don't get up and move and do stuff. And I know I'm guilty. Like, I'm in grad school and I'm guilty of just reading.
Just reading and studying and staying there. But taking a few minutes really just to, I'll do like, sometimes I'll just do jumping jacks. Sometimes I'll do like a few sit-ups it's kind of nuts. But sometimes, especially when I'm feeling tired and weary, I'll just start jumping up and down or doing a few sit-ups at the floor. And sometimes they've even had pedals at the desk.
Okay.
So people start moving their feet underneath the desk. But there are a lot of, without getting all those technology and tools, there are things that we can do to stay in motion, but lung function, heart function improves, clarity of mind. So I'm in agreement with you. Absolutely. Those are small steps that we can take to do that. And again, those are steps of prevention, stuff that we've talked about before. If you remain active, CDC recommends at least 150 minutes a week. So if you break that down, divide that by 3, 50 minutes 3 times a week to get your heart, make sure your heart rate is up. You're breaking out in sweat. That's when you're going to burn the most fat, and it's actually really good exercise. But that's the recommendation that is given to us, and I encourage people to engage in that. So just set a goal. Listen, if you set a goal and you achieve 80 to 70% of your goal, that's pretty good.
Okay.
People shoot themselves in the foot like, I didn't choose 100. I didn't make 100, so they totally stopped. No, that's okay.
That's right.
70, 60%, 80%, you're going to just keep climbing up. You're like, that's fine. I'm going to get it for the next time. So I'm one of those people who like, even for me, it could be like, I need to get that 100%. Nope, I'm okay. I got the 70% today. I got it tomorrow, and we're just keep going.
I think I was thinking as you're talking, a lot of people, we're getting ready to come up on a break here soon, so I won't want to get too deep into another conversation. A lot of people do vision boards, and they have a planner for this, that, and whatever, and they have this whole life goal plan laid out. Why don't we incorporate being healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially healthy onto our vision board and our plan? It's not all about, I know somebody's going to come at me. It's not all about chasing money and cloud, career. It just, you have to, if you're not well, you can't be well for anybody else. So
that's right.
With that, we're going to take a quick break. Good morning to our very own Brother Cobbs, who will be here a little later with our All Gospel Wednesday. But we'll be right back after these announcements, so please do not go anywhere.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Is your child on the brink of becoming addicted to video games? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Many kids would rather stare at a screen than stare at the pages of a book. And when playing video games becomes obsessive and all-consuming, then problems will soon follow. The signs for addiction are obvious. It's the 8-year-old who has a meltdown when he's told to put away his iPad. It's the teenager who lets his grades slip because he can't turn off the Xbox. To help control this growing issue, here are ways to keep your child from becoming addicted to video games. First, set time limits for playing and stick to them. Second, take the video games away if your child disobeys the house rules. Third, make sure they're in some kind of sport or other physical activity. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
The Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was established on June 28, 1997 by 13 dynamic women who accepted the challenge of chartering the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter. Today, the chapter continues to impact the Jonesboro community by sponsoring programs such as the Sonia D. Williams Scholarship Breakfast, Community Back to School Bash, Delta Academy, Voter Registration Drive, and Autism Awareness. Our focus correlates with the national theme, Joy in Our Sisterhood, Power in Our Voice, and Service in Our Hearts. Our chapter supports Delta's 5-point programmatic thrust: economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. More information about the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is available at www.jonesboroalumnidst.org or via email jonesboroalumni@live.com.
Fullness of Joy Ministries is continuing the legacy of Elder Susan W. Rogers with the Empowering Women Conference. The 2019 Moving Forward Conference will be held at Fullness of Joy Ministries, 2120 Thorn Street, on April 26th through the 28th. The speakers include Bishop Adrian Rogers on Friday, April 26th at 7 p.m., and First Lady Carol Smith and Minister Ashley Johnson Saturday, April 27th at 9 a.m. Sunday will host Apostle Berlinda Helms for the 11 a.m. service and First Lady Caretha Coleman that night at 7 p.m. More information about the Moving Forward Conference 2019 is available at mediafoj@gmail.com or 870-930-9569.
Do you like the music you hear on KLEK 102.5 FM? Do you like the educational programming that we provide? Do you like the service we provide to the community? Do you like having a station to finally call your own that represents you? If so, please stop by or call any of our underwriters or sponsors that you hear on KLEK and tell them thank you for their support. The support of our underwriters and sponsors is vital for us to stay on the air, so be sure to let them know that you thank them for their support.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest, Dr. Brookshield Laurent. I'm so happy that you're here today. Thank you for having this conversation with me.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And I hope our listeners and viewers are really enjoying this, because we need to have more of these conversations about, we're not trying to exclude any other ethnicity, but we know that within African American community, there are just things that we deal with at a higher rate than some others. And so we need to start having this conversation on how can we start addressing it, hopefully earlier on, before it's too late.
Yeah.
And now instead of prevention, we're just dealing with the symptoms.
Yes, most definitely.
Treating the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go on to our next topic. And these are kind of all encompassing to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, exercise and how it can help with clarity of mind and, retain info and just really increase the function and quality of your muscles and other organs. Let's talk about stress.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes people are like, I'm just stressed, they pop a pill. So stress and medication, and the medication leading to something else, but stress, it may seem like we're not under a lot of stress, but we don't realize internally how it's affecting us. So would you be a doctor? You know how to best address.
Yeah, as human beings, we're going to feel stress every single day of our lives, and not all stress is bad, but there's a tipping point where stress is to the point where it's affecting the way that we live, the way that we function. It affects our relationships. It affects the way that we work. It affects the way that we raise our children and, participate in our community. And when there are levels of great dysfunction in our lives, you need to look for these triggers and these areas of stress. And so here's the thing, as long as we're alive, we're going to be feeling the stress, and we have to learn how to build certain mechanisms, healthy mechanisms to cope with stress. And if it's done in an unhealthy way, again, some of the unhealthy ways of dealing with stress may be in over drinking, alcohol, it can be in eating behaviors. There's a lot of unhealthy behaviors that may be attached to trying to relieve stress. or drug use, overuse of drugs, or misuse of even prescribed drugs. Maybe also triggers that may be induced by stress. And so these behaviors can lead to someone's death and affect lives of the people that are around you and your entire community. And so first things first, when it comes to stress, you have to pause.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is we're constantly, depending on who you are in life, you're going, you're running, you pick up the kids, you got to go to work, you're doing 2 shifts, you're doing an overnight shift. I mean, you're in school and working, caring for a family. That is an amazingly difficult situation to be in if you don't create space to breathe, to pause. You can really do more harm to yourself than good. But that's not good in and of itself. Sometimes we need guidance, and it requires us to requires us to process stress in community with people in a place that's safe, or with someone that's safe to positively work with stress. Now, there's some people, when you have problems, you don't really want to go to.
No.
There are people where they continue to add fire, they continue to trigger, and you just walk away more stressed than when you started. So you probably need to find a circle of friends that are wiser, that are usually more calmer, that are able to give you perspective. So I'm saying this to say that we can't do this in isolation. It requires us to be vulnerable.
Yes.
That may be hard for us to do and express, particularly we may see in the African American community, about being open about our problems. We don't want anyone in our business. We don't want people to know. And I'm telling you, to a great degree, it's affecting us. We have to start being open, or find a safe space to talk to people about what's on our hearts and our minds. I think that's something we might have observed in our generation before us. Mom just carrying on, had issues and stress. I just got to take care of my family and keep moving. But we're hurting ourselves. And I've seen people triggered into getting illnesses and diseases because they're not optimizing their health, because mentally that is affecting their mental well-being. People then start complaining of stomach issues and back issues, and it's really coming from stress.
I've heard that. I've known someone that they were in a car accident and they did hurt their back. However, they went to a chiropractor and pain management, but it lasted longer than it should have been because other things were going on in their life. And I can remember an elder in our community talking to this person saying, you need to let go of this other thing, because it's not just the physical pain. It's not just the injury from the accident anymore. It's something else manifesting in your body.
Right. That is very true. That is very true. You have to address someone who's just saying, I have pain. And for chronic pain, it's not just the pain in of itself, the mental pain. And because it's mental pain doesn't make it not pain, by the way. I just want to say that. People tend to dismiss it and say, oh, it's in your mind. Actually, that's pretty powerful.
Okay.
Your mind plays a significant role in your physical well-being. And so that too needs to be addressed. And so if there are people who are dealing or working through chronic pain, they need to be an antidepressants. And I've seen people who started antidepressants, their pain is actually more manageable. Okay. So there is no disconnect between what's happening in our mind above our shoulder with the rest of our body. I mean, we have to start treating that holistically.
Oh, wow. All right. So I hope everyone is thinking of ways they can de-stress.
Yeah. And I mean anything, whether it's prayer, meditation, staying active, not living in isolation, other hobbies, activities. There are other positive mechanisms to do that. So
I'm glad you brought up the activities. Well, right quick, I have a comment from Dr. Jamarcus Brighter.
Yes.
He says Dr. Laurent is a beautiful woman. Thank you. I love him. He goes to my church.
Yes, Dr. Yes. So Jamarcus is a rising fourth-year medical student of ours at NYIT Comet A State, and immediately when he joined our school, he was a rising leader in our community, and I'm so proud of him. And such a blessing to know him too.
I want to touch on finding a coping mechanism for stress. I've joined a women's writing healing circle, and even though it's virtual, it's just the energy that these women exude, even through the screen. You know, we share commonalities that connect us, and so we're able to write and discuss and bounce off of each other. And when we leave the session, it's like, okay, I really needed that. Absolutely. And I'm now able to get back to my regular activities and function a little more efficiently.
Yes, absolutely. And there's such a role when we talk about engaging with our spirits, the way that we there's a role for that to address it. And I think the resilience that comes from our community has to do with a strong thread in spirituality. And there are many people that engage in that in a lot of different ways, but it's something that is worth noting. And through writing and in community, I think that's a very powerful way to start expressing yourself. Sometimes we can't articulate it by our words, but in speaking, but we can write it. And that is a good way out. Maybe we're not ready to say some things out loud, but I've seen a lot of healing happen that way too. So I think it's a great way to start. Journaling, writing stuff down, and I'm not consistent with journaling. I try to do it, but I'm all about the 70-60% rule. I do it a couple of nights, I'm okay. So, but it does help. And then look back at my thoughts and say, this is where I've been. And where have I been? And kind of seen how it's progressed. And I pray through my journal. And so it really helps me to, bring clarity. And again, I do this in community. I don't do this by myself. There's a study that showed independent risk factor for heart disease was someone living in isolation.
What?
Isolation. Can you believe it? It was a big study that came in a major cardiac journal that people who live by themselves, and isolation doesn't mean even by yourself. You can be with a group of people, still feel alone. But if you don't feel like you have someone to share an experience you've had, maybe you've had trauma and you feel by yourself in that traumatic experience, that's a feeling of isolation. And so they talk about isolation being a cause of heart disease. It's incredible.
Oh my gosh.
So we can't separate the spirit, the mind from the physique. We can't. We need people. We need community.
All right, everybody. I hope you're listening, taking notes, and find your circle, even if it's one or two. Make it a triangle, a square, whatever.
Something. And good people. Put good people around you, y'all.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some friends y'all know y'all need to kick off of Facebook and just delete. Y'all just know. I'm all about removing yourself or decreasing social media time too. That also can be very stressful. You're looking at other people's page and looking at other people's lives. You're comparing. You don't walk away feeling better. You walk away feeling upset. You feel it, so maybe we need to decrease that social media time too. So just something to consider about, something for health as well. Positive engagement with social media. I'm all about that.
All right.
But if you're not feeling good after social media, that's probably something you want to stay away from as a stress for triggers for stress.
Okay, yes, limit that time.
Yeah.
All right, so moving next into medication. Now someone has been diagnosed with something and they're having to take some medication for whatever reason. As we know, any man-made medication is going to have side effects.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while before the doctor can find the right one for that one person that helps balance out whatever, that helps really treat what they're dealing with. Some people get so frustrated with the process, they're like, I'm not taking it anymore, So talk about the adverse effects of not taking medication or starting and stopping. And then also on the flip side, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of posts on some different social media sites about holistic, like herbs, essential oils, everything else in between. So give us a little
talk
rundown
about that. So in the history of medicine, like back in the 1800s, we had terrible medications. I mean, it literally was toxin. It was mercury, arsenic, bloodletting with animal. It was just really bad. And so there has been, with research, significant changes in the use of the creation of medication and the use of medication.
Okay.
And I mentioned to say that it's not perfect right now, but it certainly isn't where it used to be. I think the discussion of medication starts with an openness with your doctor, your healthcare provider, with the patient, and just being upfront saying these are the possible things that may happen. And sometimes it's more disturbing when it takes you by surprise. No one told me this could possibly happen, and I think more anger and frustration happens because of that. So there needs to be an openness about these are the possible things that may happen. Now you'll hear the commercials, right? With like the 20 things that can happen with all of this, and I just have to let everyone know that they have to do that legally, but it isn't like that happened to all one person. They did studies on thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and they collected all the stuff that happened, not to one person, but all the stuff that could possibly happen, so they could just make you aware. But that does not mean that that's going to necessarily happen to you. statistically, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen. It's just a possibility.
Okay.
So that could be really off-putting, but there's a part of it where we have to negotiate. Like, you just have to know there's a possibility that that's there.
Okay.
Particularly in the elderly population. So one of the rules we use is start with the lowest dose possible and go slow as possible. So that's a method that we use with medications. And then slowly, incrementally go up until we get you at a therapeutic level or the symptoms are better. So it, number one, starts with a discussion with your doctor, so that you can just be as open, say, hey, tell me what should I expect when I take this, or the doctor should be forthcoming and just say that, what could be coming up. So the discussion helps. Secondly, the moment something is going on, talk to your doctor about it. I don't recommend just stopping medications altogether unless it's something that's life-threatening. You can't breathe, you break out in a rash. Of course, stop the medication. Stop that medication. But even if that happens, still call your doctor and say something is not right. Obviously, you just go to the emergency room when something's going on. But don't just walk away altogether and like, I'm not going to take this anymore, because there may be something else that can help. Just to have a conversation, right? Just to have a conversation, say, what are the possibilities? There have been a lot of movements now to, when they're doing research, to diversify the pool of people they do research, so that when we prescribe or we are prescribing medication, we can say, well, in this pool of people who were identified as African Americans or Black, etc., we found that this medication worked the best. So they're moving toward diversifying the pool of people that they do research in, but it requires us to contribute to that pool as well. So
I was just going to, when you see a posting or an email or something about participating in a study, please participate in the study, because how can we know what affects us, or how can we be counted if we don't show up?
Right. And you are so right. And it wasn't until past decade that there were specific medications that were noted, and studies have shown to be more effective for hypertension in the Black population. But that wasn't the case, years and years ago. We didn't know that. It wasn't until that population was actually studied. And so we have a chance of figuring out more so where the side effects will be, less likely, or what's more effective. So that's one aspect of it as well. Yeah.
And speaking of research, are the students at NYIT encouraged to maybe do some of their own low-scale research?
Yeah, they either work with our faculty or doctors in the community that are already doing research. So our students are really engaged on that level. So that's something that we are encouraging our students to do.
All right, so students, you can come see us.
Yes,
I'll talk to you forever.
Oh, thank you. We'll keep that in mind.
So please let us know if there are any studies that we can help spread the word about and get more participants in this community on.
Yes.
All right. And so also, going to continue with medication.
Yes.
Some people, because they're frustrated with the prescription drugs, are looking to holistic. I know as a doctor, you have to advise your patients on what, look at all options, but have you had patients come to you and say, I'm just going to try this oil, I'm going to try this herb, I'm going to do this supplement, and what do you say to them?
Well, the thing is that number one, I have to have a conversation, and truly, even in a culture, there are certain things that that they are used to will help them with their well-being. I'm not going to discount it. I want to learn, I want to know about it, and so we should have an open conversation. When it comes to going through internet, reading stuff about, the things they'll say they're curative things for diabetes, hypertension, very leery about those things. There hasn't been enough studies to prove that that's necessarily so. And when we check your blood sugars, the numbers are still high. So it may be doing something for you in one scale, and I want to affirm that, but it's not helping us reach your goal. The other thing too is a lot of these herbs and claims to some of these other holistic, what they would call other holistic products to help with health and well-being, they're not regulated. Sometimes they're made in someone's home and background. No one is checking it. Sometimes they may have preservatives that actually cause negative side effects and actually are very harmful to individuals. And so I understand the cynicism or how people are skeptic about medications, but on the other end of it as well is actually greater danger danger because you don't know how it's processed. Medications that we receive, that we go through the FDA has been regulated, they've been tested, they go through a certain process, eyes are on it. These medications, someone can very easily do something in their kitchen, put it on the internet, have 3 or 4 people say it's been wonderful, and they say we have 100% rate saying it's been good because they only did 4 people that said it. Yeah. You put it in your body, you don't know what you're putting in your body. There's a lot of danger in that. Yeah. So it's important for me to know that. It's important for me to have a discussion with that. So be leery about that. But there are certainly roles. I mean, there's a lot of studies that have affirmed vitamin D, the role of that, calcium. So those are things, absolutely, we recommend that in our practice. St. John's warts for a lot of different things. So yeah, we talk about that, but we know there are other things that, if it's not regulated or checked, it can negatively affect people. So euthanasia, they've saw studies to help with the decrease with the symptoms or the durations of the common cold. So vitamin C. So we acknowledge that. Like, there's studies now that are showing more of these things. But one website I recommend someone to look up is familydoctor.org. That's familydoctor.org. And if you even have questions maybe about some of the things that you're finding on the internet, they may be able to point to studies that say, yes, there may be studies that support this, or there's not enough strong studies to support it. So I trust that website as a website I refer my family and my patients to get more information.
All right. And one thing I want to interject here, you talked about all these wild studies and claims. I often watch a show called Adam. I think it's Adam Ruins Everything. Okay. And this particular episode was about the medical profession. Well, these fads and these advertisements and these studies and these articles or journals that look like legitimate. If people don't know what they're looking for, they'll take this article and the story on research and take it as gold when it's fool's gold. Yeah. And in the episode, it was talking about how a lot of these doctors run with information that's not true. Some people are not even real doctors, or they haven't done extensive enough research. Anyone can write an article and get it advertised for the right amount of money, So we have to be very mindful of things that are out. It's so much information out there that can be overwhelming. Yeah. So you have to be mindful. And they didn't get into how to look for valid websites. Yeah. And so, again, talk to your doctor. What we're going to do in our last segment, we're going to wrap up and talk about how to have this conversation with your doctor. Go with questions, and we'll get into that. So we're going to get ready for another break. You tune in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Over the past several days, we've covered 6 of the 7 deadly sins of money management. The last of the deadly sins may be the worst one, sloth. That's just being plain lazy. An example of this is not taking the effort to create and follow a budget, track your spending, and stay on top of where your money is going. Too many of us would rather just work from memory or play it by ear. Anything to avoid the work. Don't give in to sloth. Investing the time and effort to actively manage and improve your finances will not only save you money, for example when filing your taxes, but help you to find more opportunities to make money. It's never too late to repent from the 7 deadly sins of money management. Change your mind and change your habits, and you can change how you handle your money. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Hello everyone, this is Brother Carls of KLEK 102.5 FM. We are seeking 100 donors to give at least $20 per month. But we are happy with any gift, large or small. Come by our studio at 1411 Franklin Street in Jonesboro. Call us at 870-277-1080, or you can visit our website at klekfm.org. Or you can use the Cash App, $ KLEKFM, or text KLEK1 and send it to 44321. This is Brother Carlos Victory Praise Gospel, all Gospel Wednesday. So please, all my listeners, let's donate.
Mrs. Polly's Motivational Barbecue, CAB, located 2908 South Caraway in Jonesboro, in the parking lot of Teletech. Mrs. Polly's Motivational Barbecue offers barbecue pork sandwiches, barbecue chicken, Philly cheesesteaks, nachos, and more for carry-out or catering at special events. Open Wednesday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Details at 870-243-8747 or Mrs. Polly's Motivational Barbecue CAB on Facebook.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
Fullness of Joy Ministries is continuing the legacy of Elder Susan W. Rogers with the Empowering Women Conference. The 2019 Moving Forward Conference will be held at Fullness of Joy Ministries, 2120 Thorn Street, on April 26th through the 28th. The speakers include Bishop Adrian Rogers on Friday, April 26th at 7 p.m., and First Lady Carol Smith and Minister Ashley Johnson Saturday, April 27th at 9 a.m. Sunday will host Apostle Berlinda Helms for the 11 a.m. service and First Lady Caretha Coleman that night at 7 p.m. More information about the Moving Forward Conference 2019 is available at mediafoj@gmail.com or 870-930-9569.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guest today is Dr. Brookshield Laurent. Y'all, we've been having a really great on and off air conversation. Yes, I'm sorry if you missed it. You're just going to have to go back and watch the recap for yourself. I want to say good morning to Ms. Alyssa Hamilton. Thank you for joining us. And everyone else out there that's listening and watching. I hope that you are taking something away from this conversation and, starting to say, okay, I need to have different discussions, new discussions, include the family, and have a discussion with my doctor, which is what we're going to get into now. Now that we are equipped with a little more knowledge, now we need to have this discussion with our doctor so we can start making these changes and make them a lifetime change versus a temporary change. So how to start the conversation with your doctor.
So, and you had talked a little bit about this, but your doctor visit requires some preparation on your end, on our end. First thing, and when we look up what the first thing we can do is start making a list of what's on your mind. Okay. All of it may not be addressed in that visit. It may require multiple visits. Okay. But I would start listing with the top 3 things that are going on, as a list first. If you're on any medications put them all in a brown paper bag or a Ziploc bag and bring it with you. Okay. A lot of medical errors happen where people aren't aware of the medications that they're taking, and doctor prescribes something that could be contraindicated with what you're already taking. We can't remember some of these names that have 20 letters in it. So just bring the medications with you and be ready to describe to your doctor how you take the medication. So bring that with you. I find that sometimes it's helpful to bring someone else with you. Sometimes we're not honest with ourselves, or we don't even perceive what's going on in our life. So give that person permission to say, yep, that's what we've seen, and nope, that's not what happened. And that's okay. If there's someone you can trust to come into that room with you and they mean a lot to you and they're part of your life and health, please, I would think, make a way for them to come, and that's usually a very welcome conversation, and if you feel safe for them to be there.
So an accountability partner.
Accountability partner. I'm telling you, you act right. We act better when we know someone else is listening. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. So let's have them there, have that conversation. What we can also do is, aside from having that, have already a list of all the things you've been diagnosed with on a piece of paper. All the surgeries you've had, just write that all, jot that down. Sometimes we forget what we been through. I've had people literally forget they had knee surgery, they had their gallbladder removed. They're just like, oh yeah, having a C-section is surgery. So, write those things down. Times you've been hospitalized. Yeah, one time I was hospitalized for pneumonia. How many times? If you had asthma, be ready to say, yeah, I've been hospitalized like 3 times within the past year with asthma. So those are things that you want to bring to the table when you're discussing your health with your doctor. So I always say have an index card in your wallet. Just a small little card that has what your allergies are, what you're allergic to, food or medications, your top diagnoses that you've been diagnosed with, and then medications that you're on. Have that ready to go. Try to have that in one sheet of paper. If you're coming from another healthcare provider, already be ready to provide that information to them. Okay. So if you had a long, extensive medical history, be ready, prepared to discuss that, or have that prepared for them to have that ready for your chart, scanned into your chart. So it just requires a little bit more research for you to kind of look back and go back with your health history, but it does help with the conversation.
All right, and this is me preaching to me. Be consistent with your visits.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go to the doctor because you feel, but that's number 2 things, rather. Be consistent and don't only go to the doctor when you feel bad.
When you feel bad. That's right. Preventive care, as I said before, is the best type of conversations I like to have. What can we do to prevent you from getting any other diabetes, hypertension, and cholesterol? Those are the best conversations. So make a visit. Just say, hey, doc, I'm feeling good, but this is what's going on in my family. My family has this, X, Y, and Z. I'm concerned about that. This is in my community. I want to make sure I'm in my heart health. So if you're a woman, and you are above the age of 21, you should be getting your pap smears, every 3 to 5 years, depending on the type of test that you take. You definitely should be getting screened for sexually transmitted infections, certainly if you're sexually active. Mammograms at the age of 40, colonoscopy at the age of 50. Making steps to quit smoking if you're doing any tobacco products, or even vaping. Don't even tap into the vaping. The vaping has nicotine, which elevates your blood pressure. So those are discussions you can talk about quitting. So prevention means what steps can stop to change my behaviors of health. Behaviors of health discussions during prevention as well.
And we can't say this enough. Anytime there's a health and wellness seminar, community event, go to those events because there are medical professionals there who can give you information in a variety of areas. And then we need to saturate our communities with this information. It's not just so much, we have to go beyond just handing out a leaflet or brochure. We just sit and have conversations and make these encounters interactive if possible. Involve the children. I'm all about advocacy and community engagement for the babies. So involve the children as well.
Absolutely, we must.
All right, so in our last minute and a half, any final words of encouragement or just anything we'd like to leave with our listeners and viewers?
Well, today you have it. If you can hear me and there is breath in your lungs, you have an opportunity to make some decisions today to choose life for yourself. Whatever you did this morning, that was this morning. Whatever you did this past week, that was this past week. Today, you have this moment. You can make some decisions toward health. And when you go to the grocery store, when you're sitting at the table, dinner table, and preparing your meals, deciding to take a few more steps, walking in the park, Craighead Forest if you're able to get around, taking some time to breathe, taking some breathing exercises. There are a lot of different things you can do today to make those decisions. Please don't be overwhelmed.
Okay.
Take small steps.
Yes.
Have a vision. I love the idea for the vision board.
Yes.
And make 3 goals for your mind, 3 goals for your spirit, 3 goals for your body, 3 goals, about what you want to improve. I want to sleep better. I want to think clearer.
Okay.
And then talk to your doctor about some healthy ways to do that, and some really good resources to get the information that you need. Safe and good, reliable resources for your needs.
Thank you so very much. Don't forget to check out the link, familydoctor.org, if you have any further questions or need some more guidance to get you on the right path. But also we're going to send people your way.
Absolutely.
The NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine. Go see the professionals and students out there. I'm sure they'll be happy to help you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laurent, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone out there. Have a great and blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council,